I'm always ready.
Awesome. So there was a few team that can't get on, so I said I'd record it so they can hear a little bit about you. And I had the pleasure last week of having a great conversation with you and said, I would love for the team to get to know you as the new country manager. And if we could just start maybe what your background was and why you came to RX. Can we start with that?
I can. Yeah, and I appreciate that. Hello, everybody. And I'm sure that you're calling in from all parts around Canada and the United States, and possibly even further than that. And I just want to say thank you for being on a call and for being interested enough in me to be on the call. Sometimes, it just that makes my whole day. So my background, my schooling was in theater, musical theater to be more exact. In fact, growing up, it's interesting you asked the question about Robert Redford. I wanted to be the next Robert Redford. I wanted to be Sundance Kid. I thought that was about as cool as you could get. He was tough, he was handsome, and he got all the girls. It's like, what more would I want out of life than to do that? So pursued musical theater, was pretty good at it, but realized I probably was just going to be a very talented food service worker for a long time, and decided to get into business. So I was a stockbroker and a trader during the 1980s for about 6.5 years. Did quite well. And then just not long after the crash in 1987, I decided that I wasn't very passionate about financial services and wanted to get into something I was passionate about. So that I began my career right after that, about 25 years ago, I guess closer to 30 years ago, in the nutritional products industry. And retail business called Leader Nutrition, now called Shift Nutrition, and was with them for 5.5 years, and then followed the president of the company into a network marketing company where he became president and CEO, and I began my network marketing nutritional products career about 20 plus years ago, and have been doing it ever since and fell in love with it. So I've been on the executive side of multiple companies, have been everything from the sales guy all the way up to my last position where I was CEO of a public company called Forever Green. And the reason why I was looking to leave, and the reason why I fell in love with RX and the story here, was that I had lost my mojo. To be honest with you, I'm an energy guy, I'm a mojo guy, and got caught up in the minutia of trying to save a company and pay its bills, and wondering if I was going to hit payroll and if we were going to be able to take commissions, and sweated that out every day, and I just kind of lost my energy. My family noticed it, I noticed it, and I felt like I was kind of losing every day off my life. And so I was looking for a change. I actually wrote down in my planner one day, take back control of your life. Literally wrote those words down. And within a couple of weeks, and I had known Mark Wilson for the last few years and stayed connected. We had talked multiple times, and reached out again to him and said, you know what, I am secretively looking to make a change. He said, well, that's really interesting. We don't really have anything, but you're a guy that we would be very interested in having come aboard. Let's talk. So we started talking, and one thing led to another. So that's why I was looking, why I fell in love with RX is really comes down to 5 things. The mission and vision of the company. It matches my mission and vision. I believe in making a difference in the world. I believe that our industry could do that. I believe in the network marketing model. I believe in the power of what a person can achieve, and I share in that same vision as the company. I love disruptive by design. I think it is a powerful message in an industry that's gotten a little stagnant. I love the Bill of Rights that the company established, basically laying out the partnership between the company and the distributors. I love the way the Founders Club was put together, and there's a profit sharing not only among the owners of the company, but with the key and top distributors in the field. Nobody's doing that. Nobody will step out and do anything like that. So the Disrupted by Design is not just a tagline, it's something they believe in, and I just resonated with that. The number 2 is the owners of the company. I share in that same mission and vision, but there's 7 owners. So one owner is not going to make a decision to take the company in the wrong direction, because there's 7 alphas that are 6 others that are standing there to say, nope, that ain't going to happen. These are successful people who care about the distributors, and in the way that they've established the company is a powerful partnership. Number 3 is the products and the product focus, the product technology, the quality of the products. I love the products. I've been taking the products ever since before I joined the company, and the quality is unmatched in the industry. The commitment to quality, the certifications, the commitment to the environment, all of those things are crazy positive. And the fact that Nucerity is now a part of the company in this great product line. I've kind of fallen in love with Skincerity, I have to admit. I'm a little bit vain as it relates to my skin and my looks, and want to stay young forever. And I don't have a portrait of myself in the attic, so I got to do the next best thing, which is kind of Skincerity. And so I do the Juve night cream, and I put on Skincerity afterwards. It's pretty cool. Number 4 is the compensation plan. And I will tell you that many companies say that they paid 50% out, and they don't. I will tell you that RX pays 50 cents on every dollar through the compensation plan. I've seen the reports. I've seen the financial reports. I've talked to the finance people. It's not a spin. We actually pay out 50 cents on every dollar. Now, some of you may say, well, where's my 50 cents? I'm only getting 20. Well, you know what? How do you maximize the plan? That's the question. How do I go about making the most amount, not leave money on the table, but maximize the plan? That's the question. So the compensation plan is unique. It's fair. It's equitable. It pays what it says it pays. Amen, period, exclamation point. Number 5, the key element is, I am so tired of startup companies. I've been there. I've done that. I know the potential of a startup, but the risk to my reputation and my time is not worth it. And so to have a company that's going to do $210 million this year plus, and just getting started, 7 years old, so it has the power, but with the security of a 7-year-old $200 million company, is unmatched. So long answer to a very short question, but that answered why I was looking, why I made a change, and why I'm here.
Well, it also answered my next question, which was, and I think you just shared them, the 5 key points that we can use in duplicating, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so what I love about what you just shared, and I had this conversation with David earlier, is when we had our most success, we talked about what was called the 4 Ps, which was the people, the products, the pay plan, and positioning, which is all you just said, except you added in the mission and vision of the company. So does that make sense to everybody on here, that once we have those 5 Ps figured out again, that's where our share comes from? I think a lot of people on the call, Rick, have been kind of stalled because we got a little lost in how to share. And when you said to me last week that you want to just make it really simple, that people can have the basics of what to share with adding their own story, which is what this is, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm excited about that.
Which is really, if you go back and listen to what I just said, it's exactly what I said. And that was my story. This is why I'm here. This is what I recognize. These are the 5 points. It's easy to personalize that because each of us have our own reasons and our own whys, our own purpose, and so on. But it should resonate with each one of those 5 key points. And also to take it to the next step, my main goal with North America is to create that unified message in the simplest, most elegant way it can be said, and then have that be the basis of our presentation, our core, so that everybody knows what everybody else is talking about and what everyone else is saying.
I love that. We have definitely needed that. You know, one of the other type of hurdles we've had is when we merged, cost of auto ships went up for RX products for their points compared to what ours was. And how you explained it to me the other day was great about the difference between cosmetic and nutritional supplements. Do you want to share with everybody a little bit about what you shared that?
Yeah, I will, Tish, and it's really just my perspective. I'm not trying to be right or wrong or suggest that that you believe, you know, in everything that I'm saying, but I've had the opportunity throughout my career to be involved in almost every facet of the nutritional products and in some cases personal care businesses, from ideology to creation to sourcing of materials to production to distribution. And there's power in the ingredients. And the skincare, and David can back this up, the personal care and skincare industries have become more commodity driven, especially in the last, 10 or 15 years, or mostly 10 years. And what used to be really high-end ingredients would cost a ton of money. And in some cases, a few of them still do. But for the most part, the cost of goods of essential oils and personal care are just not what they used to be. And I'm not saying the quality, I'm saying the cost. And so the multiples of the cost of that product is just different. When I came to RX and I saw the formulas, and you can say what you want about Deanna Latson, but what she does is she stands for the highest ingredients, the highest level of ingredients, the greatest efficacy, and they come at a price. I will tell you the mushroom that we have in MOA, one of the mushrooms that we have in MOA, when she told me the cost per kilo, I about choked on my MOA. I mean, honestly, it's probably more, and I'm going to be honest with you, probably more than all of the ingredients combined into one of our other products. And I asked her, I said, why would you spend that much money on that one ingredient? She said, because it is the most powerful mushroom or fungus out there that you can put in a product. No one else has it. And we stand alone in offering that ingredient. Well, you can't have the best and sprinkle a fairy dust amount so that the price of the product is a lot less. So, there's a simple formula in pricing products in our industry. You have the cost of your goods, which is what the company pays for the product. You have the price of the product out in the marketplace. You have your PV, which is the volume, and you have your margin. The cost of the product, the cost of goods, you can continue to try to get more efficient at manufacturing it, or you do more of it. Your volume goes up so you can get a better price. But for now, that price is fairly fixed. You have a specific margin that you have to maintain to keep the lights on and to keep paying the 50% and to do all those things. So the only two things you can really mess with is your price and your PV. And so your price, you don't price the market, you don't price your product so far out of the marketplace by offering a 1-for-1 on the PV. The only thing you can really do and to have a competitive price is to lower the PV. So it's not that the company is saying we've got to make, 10 times more than the next company. It's that's the equation. I'm just being really upfront about this, and that's the reality. So in order to be able to stand alone and say we have the highest efficacious products with the safety standards that we have to have, these products work, they're backed by science, you're going to pay for that. And second of all, if you're going to pay for that to stay competitive, you got to reduce the PV, which means that in order to hit the 100 points, instead of doing $110 worth of product, you're probably paying $123 to $132 for that same 100 points. So no mystery. It's just that is the reality. And I will stand behind the quality and pay a little bit more for quality. I learned that a long time ago in my life with basketball shoes. And that's another story for another call.
Good.
Hope that helps.
Well, it does help me, and I hope everybody else to have some nodding yes on the call. I want to tell you, I've got some key leaders on here, a couple from Red Deer. So Rick lived in Edmonton for a year or two?
For 2 years, I was a missionary for the Mormon Church, and mostly in Calgary and Edmonton. So driving from Calgary and Edmonton to Calgary, I obviously had to pass through Red Deer.
You did. So we've got Mandy Nelson and her mom Maureen on the call, who are from Red Deer area. EJ and Dawn
Perfect.
on the call from Calgary area, which you're also familiar with.
Awesome.
Got some people on here from Gull Lake, which is by Swift Current, Karen. Shannon Reevely from Regina, which is the capital in Saskatchewan.
Right.
Got a couple people on here from Lloydminster area, Alfreda and Judy. And and I miss Sandy from Regina as well. And then we've got some Manitoba people on here, Nicole and Nicole.
Awesome.
From there. So I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to them for hopping on here because they were very, very excited to meet you. Now, a lot of these key leaders on here, if they were to, like you said, get the full 50 cents rather than the 20, how would they maximize the comp plan? What do you suggest everybody be doing?
Well, three main things. Make sure you're ultimate. And if you're not ultimate now and you want to get ultimate, you call me. Let's work out a plan. I'll work out with customer service and just make it happen. Number two, make sure you're gold, so you're maximizing that, and then build the Power Four. It's really, it's really interesting. And I understand all of you that are on the call, I'm assuming we're with Nucerity. And it wasn't that their comp plan was bad and ours is good. It was that it's a different shape. It's just different. And the way I liken it is that you had been building on a triangle comp plan, and now it's a square comp plan. So the key is not to say, well, here's what I'm missing with the square comp plan that I used to have with a triangle. It's how do I maximize the new shape? How do I maximize the square? Those are the ways to maximize the square. Make sure you're ultimate. If you're not 2X, again, let's make sure that you get to 2X. Let's figure out a plan. I'll work with customer service to make it happen. Let's make it happen. Make sure that you're gold, and then build the Power Four and duplicate that. The DNA, what I always ask, my simple question with any comp plan, what is the DNA to build with? The building blocks of building. And those are the building blocks. And then you duplicate that. You have Power of Four as you duplicate it with 4, help them duplicate with 4, and you duplicate that with 4 again, meaning 3 levels or $150,000 a year income. I mean, that works for me. It's simple. We can draw it out. That's kind of the magic, and it's kind of simple. You'll notice in all of my language, I hope I don't offend anybody by saying this. I know David will laugh, chuckle, but I call it not my black cocktail dress, but that black cocktail dress is that I believe in a woman's closet. And yes, I'm sexist. I admit it. I'm sorry, but in a woman's closet, the most simple, elegant, sexy thing that they own is a black cocktail dress. And sometimes I think we try to overcomplicate things. We try to put lace around the collar. We try to put shoulder pads. We try to put extensions on the sleeves, or, I'm being ridiculous now. But the reality is we need to break things down in the simplest common denominator and the most simple, elegant, and sexy that we can make our message. And company 7 years old, fantastic, amazing what they've done. We can make the message so much simpler and more elegant. Does that make sense?
Absolutely does. I have some more questions though as we're going. So when people are building with the Power Four, we've always built a binary. Okay. So
Yep.
now you're talking 4. Should we be building 4 separate lines with the 4 people and continuing to put underneath? Because I'm thinking if I put 4 people and 2 quit on the same leg, then I would still have a dead leg, right?
Yes.
But if I put 4 separate lines and 2 quit, I'd still have 2 lines going. So should I be building 4 cross or still binary?
Well, that's a fantastic question. What I would like to answer that question is with a little bit of a caveat, and that is it depends on what you have to build from. because if I was getting started today and I would find 4, and you know what? I personally would do 4 separate legs. However, if I've got an organization that I'm building from, and I'm building out 2 legs, because the answer is, how's your quickest way to optimization? And if my quickest way to optimization is to do 4 in 2 legs first, optimize those 2 legs, and then build additional after that, then that's what I would do. Because right now it's all about optimizing. And if you've got 4, and here's how I ask the question. If I'm going to create Rick Inc., and Rick Inc. is going to be $1 billion organization, then who are 4 people, who are 4 partners that I'm going to have come in as my business partners? When I ask the question that way, it's probably going to be different than who's the first 4 people that I'm going to think about calling. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not going to call the same 4 people I thought about to begin with, but I'm not going to think of them as being my first 4 business partners of a multi-billion-dollar organization. Those are probably going to be a bit more upscale than the first 4 I thought about. Just I'm thinking me in my life. Mm-hmm. So I think that right now, if I've got 2 legs that are going and they haven't been optimized yet, then I would see how close they are to being optimized, and maybe I would go out and put the next person in that first leg that I'm going to optimize. Gotcha. Before I go and start thinking about leg 3. So that's the beauty of the multi-line plan, is that you can build a binary and then add that 3rd leg and then that 4 leg later on. But if I haven't optimized my first 2, then the great thing about auto balancing is that it doesn't matter. It will still pay me the most that I'm going to pay. So I've hedged a little bit by saying, if you answer the question, should I build a binary, should I build a unilevel? The answer is yes, because that's the beauty of the multi-line. But I should be thinking optimization. So if I have right now a group that is close to optimizing, I want to get that one done first. And then by optimizing my first one, remember, you get that 3rd anyway.
Right. I just wanted to clarify, because everyone's been, some people have said stick with the binary. Others have said, if you find leaders, stick them out and start your new legs. And then when you're starting new people, the scenario was brought to me, well, what if my 2 people on 1 leg quit? Then I'm starting all over again. So I wanted to kind of get your take, because you're familiar. But what I have learned is, when you come from a system, you build habits and you get these things stuck in your head. So we want to find people who have never had any experience in network marketing, so they can learn from square one this and not have any other notions like we have, comparing, but we had this before and now we don't. And it's confusing people, I think. So I like hearing that. So most of the people, when we were brought over, sorry.
Let me add to that, because, and I don't know the Nucerity plan, so I please beg my forgiveness, but maybe David can help me on this. But in a hybrid binary, you were building 2 placement tree legs, but you were still building out an enrollment tree that could be as wide as you wanted it, because you were paid more on your level 1 usually in your check match than you would be in your other levels. So you've been used to building wide, even though you weren't thinking about it that way, because you were focusing on placing those in a placement tree. So I don't think you're changing necessarily how you were building as much as how you were placing.
Correct. That makes sense.
Because I'm an enroller. You can tell by my personality, I have no problem talking to people. I would put them, number one, I would never give away an enrollment. So if that's ever been a part of the conversation from you givers out there that love to give to people, never give away an enrollment. Number 2, I would be as wide as I possibly could be. Now, whether I place them in one of my other legs depends on how those people would work together. I have spheres of influence that have spheres of influence. It just, each person's got a different mentality in the way they do it. But you know what? If binary's been working for you, keep building the 2 legs, but don't lose sight of the fact that once you optimize, you're going to want to bring on a 3rd anyway. Who's going to fill that spot? Are you going to meet them tomorrow? Are you going to meet them a year from now? Hopefully that makes some sense.
Let me say, all right, I don't think you can see the faces, Rick. Can you see everybody?
No, I'm on my car phone, and I dialed in.
Well, and also I have the advantage of knowing them. So
Yes, you do.
I'm seeing their faces, and now they're smiling because I want to see a show of hands on people who understood what Rick said.
Yes.
Wonderful.
That.
Fantastic. I was misreading your faces. Fantastic. Great job, Rick. Okay. Please move on.
Cool.
Okay, so most of us came in when we were merged as they gave us 2X, they gave us gold, they gave us ultimate. Now, when we're bringing new people in, if people can't say afford ultimate, how can we get them there? Tell everyone kind of how we can get them there.
Well, and I'm, man, I'm still learning some of the comp plan. Obviously, you can tell that I know comp plans pretty well, but I'm still learning ours, and I haven't had enough opportunities to present it. But my understanding is ultimate is achieved in your first 8 weeks. Is that right? Or in your first 4 weeks of
Four.
Getting to 1,500.
Yeah.
But if you don't get it in your first 4 weeks as on your own, then my understanding is you can get it by an additional 4 weeks of activity within your first generation. Isn't that correct?
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because I remember a training on that when we first joined that was in the Nucerity University, and they've taken all of those trainings out. But there was a training that said there was actually 8 weeks that you could if you didn't make it in your first 4, but you had to hit 2,000
That's right.
with activity. But nobody has mentioned it since, and we couldn't find the trainings.
Yeah, that's still an aspect of the plan. And the other thing is, I'm a big believer in running on a track. Now, I'm not saying literally like jogging, running on a track. I don't like that at all. But what I'm saying that is in business, creating a track to run on. And the beautiful thing about a track to run on is that the track is the same distance for everybody to run one circle around the track, same distance for you as it is for me. Now, how fast I get there, it depends on my own speed or the speed of those carrying me the rest of the way to the circle. I wish you could have seen my face on that one. But that's what I'm talking about, is that, we have a comp plan that's written a certain way that says you got to do this in the first 4 weeks. Well, my first question to Omar and his team were, what if somebody doesn't get it in their first 4 weeks, but gets it in 2 weeks later? How many times have you given them that ultimate position if they ask it? And they said 100% of the time. I said, beautiful. That's what I want to know. Because, a comp plan's written a certain way to drive behavior. And if you don't have urgency, no one's going to have urgency. So you got to create that. But what happens is people say, I can't do it. Well, okay, what can you do? Let's work together. Let's see how close you can get. And then I know that if you work hard and you make it happen, that I can call and I can help you, because I'm going to call with you to call Omar or Maria or Mariella or Taylor or Phil, and we're going to call them together, and we're going to say, you know what? Mary Jo just fell short by 200 points. If she can do those 200 points this next week, can we give her ultimate? 100% of the time, we're going to say absolutely.
Cool.
That's pretty valuable,
so
guys.
That is.
Well, what happens is people say, I can't do it. Well, how do you know? How do you know you can't do it? I understand somebody might not be able to purchase $1,500 on their own. I get that. But if it's $2,000 in your frontline activity, how many customers does that equate to? 20 customers? I can't do that in 8 weeks. And then what if I only do 1,500 of activity in my first 8 weeks, but I call the company and they say, you know what? do the other 200 in the next 2 weeks, or the next 500, the rest of the 500 in the next 2 weeks, and I'll give it to you. I just think that we focus so much on what we can't do and not as much on what we can do or try to do.
That's so true.
This is so hard for me not to say something here, Rick, and everybody's heard me do this. I don't like the word can't. I don't like anything negative. And if you stay positive and you stay focused, then it's going to happen. If you can see it, if you can feel it, if you believe it, it's going to happen. You make it happen. What Rick is saying here is going to help you and your team make it happen. And I love those smiles I'm seeing now.
Well, and I'll give you the example on my own personal experience again, guys. I didn't realize how miserable I was. And I very intentionally one day said, you know what, take back control of your life. I didn't know how it was going to happen. But I knew it was. And I knew I intentionally had to write it down. I had to put it out there, and I had to start making the calls. And look what happened. And I got my mojo back. Maybe you can tell.
We didn't know you ever lost it.
No, you didn't, but you would be able to compare the two.
Okay.
Now, Nicole Tetlock is on the phone or on the line here, and she had asked about, getting started and stuff. So you said a little bit about that, but her part of the question was, what advice could you give new entrepreneurs?
Well, what advice would I give to new entrepreneurs? Is that what you said?
Yeah, starting in network marketing. What would you give them for advice?
Yeah. Well, oh man, that's an open-ended question, and you might just never you might be on this call for the next 4 hours, or I might be alone on this call talking for the next 4 hours. There is so much that I could say. Let me just say what comes to my mind, because it may be different tomorrow. But number one, treat it like a business. So many people say, well, I'll give it a try. And you know what? The minute you say, I'll give it a try, you can almost be destined that it will be a hobby. And you won't get the return, and then you prove it to yourself that it doesn't work. I have seen that more times than not, and it's a shame, because this is a legitimate business that is one of the few vestiges of the American dream left out in the public. I mean, people, they say, I can't afford $1,500. You know what? I can't afford to go out and buy a $1,500 basketball. Basketball is my hobby. You're absolutely right. I wouldn't spend $1,500 on a basketball and a pair of basketball shoes, because the return I'm going to get for that, for a hobby that I only do a few days of the week, I can't afford that. But if I said to myself, I'm going to go in business by myself, for myself, not by myself, I'm going to go out and get a franchise. You name me a franchise that has the potential return like a legitimate network marketing business does, for less than $25,000 or $50,000, I think even, and I'll eat my hat. It doesn't belong. There's nothing out there. So if you're saying to yourself, I want to go in business for myself, I know that I can. I've got the personality. I've got the drive. I can do this. You know what? $1,500 is nothing. And I'm not saying that to try to convince anybody to have to fork out money for $1,500. But if you start thinking about it as a business, what other business out there can you invest $1,500 in and get the return that is possible? So the real advice for today, anyway, is going to be, number one, treat it like a business. Create the expectations of an investment into your business, both time and money and energy, and then set a goal as to when you're going to get that money back. I would tell you today that if you hit gold in the first 4 weeks, you create ultimate, and then in the first 8 weeks, go out and with the power of 4, meaning you bring in 4, you will have your money back and more. Now, if that seems unreasonable for someone to accomplish, and if you've tried something in the past, and let's say today your business doesn't look like that, don't throw away what you've got, but start fresh as if today was your first day. I'm going to start today with that goal. I'm going to leverage a little bit what I got, but you know what? If I have to go out and find 4 new people and do it again and start over like it's today, and I have fresh eyes and I see it differently today, I took back control of my passion. I'm ready to go. Don't bring along the baggage of the past. Go create it and create it new as if it was a new business. Second of all, be willing to get out a little bit outside your comfort zone. And that could look a lot of different ways. You don't have to, start calling 100 people. I will tell you a little bit, another experience I had in my past. I was working for a sporting goods chain. Not a great future in that role, but it's what I liked, and I felt good doing it. And a guy came to me and offered me and said, I'm a stock guy that I knew was making some good money. He was a stockbroker, and said, you can be a stockbroker too. And I said, really? That sounds really cool. So I went out and I took the Series 7 exam, which if anybody's ever done that, or if they know anybody who has, it is a grueling exam. Went through 6 weeks of pre-test, 6 weeks of classes that I had to find some money to try to afford to do the classes. Finished, passed the test, which isn't as easy to do as it sounds. Got my license. Got with a firm that said, yes, we'll give you a desk. And it was 100% commission, and they gave me a phone and a phone book. And they said, you're a stockbroker. Doesn't that sound glamorous? And I'm looking at the phone and the phone book, and I'm going, holy crap, I don't even know what I'm going to do. I don't have any real sphere of influence. I have no credibility. I was a musical theater major, for hell's sakes. What am I going to say? I didn't know, and I promised. I was brand new married, had 1 child, and I said, I have no back door. I'm going to make this work. And so I called a page of the phone book before lunch and a page of the phone book after lunch before I went home. Now that, my friends, is misery. It's also not very effective, but it wasn't within my comfort zone, but I did it because I couldn't figure out anything else to do. There was no lead generation. None of the things that existed today. There was no internet that says how old I was, or how old I am. And I can tell you that after a year, I had built up a book, is what they called it. And I had earnings that were well over 100,000 a year, and between 100 and 200,000 a year. And that doesn't sound like a ton, but for me, that was huge. And it was passing my goals. And most of my customers were generated either from calls in the phone book or referrals from calls in the phone book. Now, I'm only saying that not to say, look how great I am, or look what I did. But I had no back door. I shut that back door, and I said, I'm going to look forward. I'm going to treat this like a business, and I'm going to be successful. And that started a career and an influence, and everything else that happened, and my whole life was based on that. And that's what I'm saying is treat it like a business. Look for it as a business, and close those back doors and say, I'm going to make this successful. Give yourself a goal, give yourself a time, make it happen. So again, I could be on a long time, and I have a lot of passion for this. But those are 2 things that came to my mind.
Awesome. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. Does anybody here have a question before we let Mr. Rick go? Unmute if you do. Anyone find it helpful or want to say thank you?
Well, I do. Rick, I'm a guest here too, and I got on here to see Tish's team, to be here with you, to be here with Tish and the group. And I thank you for your presentation. I felt your heart, and that means everything to me. So thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it. We all appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah,
and David, let me just say before you end, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I want and thank you for saying something, David, because David and Lonnie are, as all of you know, amazing and unique and just great homeboys, and I say that with all respect and love, because that's how I look at it, is that we're all, as we get working together, I just see we see things very similarly. They are tremendous leaders, and we stand united. And for David and I, we want to be on these calls together, and Lonnie as well, because we want you to feel that united stand that we have together. And it's clear, it's crystal clear to me, and I'm just happy to be working together with them. Obviously, David and I are going to be together up in BC. We'll try not to mess things up for you by being up there together and by having a good time at doing it.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was one thing when we kind of merged, people were concerned about, was our culture, because we're a very close family, thanks to Lonnie and David. They really started that from the top, and it trickled down. And I think there's been a lot of concern over even the new conference, people not staying in a same hotel, and breakout sessions where everyone's split up. And so I know over time it's going to take time for people to see how the culture will be and that kind of stuff. But I'm really glad that I agree with David. I can feel your heart. I knew that last week on the call, that you were very genuine. And the fact that you offer to help, you said, someone needs help on 3-way calls, I'll help. If you want me to talk to your team, I'll help. I love that. And so thank you. Shannon and Alfreda unmuted, so I think they want to say something too here.
Shannon, I'll go ahead here first. I just wanted to say thank you to Tish, first of all, just because of the fact that she's created this for our team, and we love her. And I know that David agrees with this, that she's all about heart. She's all about what our team is about. So I want to thank David too for being on here, because really to see that founders and people like you, Rick, that are going to be guiding us, it makes my heart very happy. So this is just confirming right from the very beginning. I love the merge because we trust David and Lonnie so much. And when we knew this was happening, you joining the field, you just friended me on Facebook too, and I appreciated that. I don't know if you remember that, but it just shows that you're all real, and that we can join forces, that all of us are important. And the disruptive by design has been kind of my motive in the last while. So thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Shannon?
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, ditto to exactly what what's been said. Tish is a great leader. David and Lonnie, absolutely fantastic. I'm just glad that we have some more people out in the field that want to help us. I know when I started doing this 7 years ago, I had no idea what this industry was, and I am totally in love with it. I am just trying to learn as much as I can, because I've got people's lives to change, and that's a really big commitment for me, that I can help somebody change their life the way I did. I can't thank this industry enough for what it's done for me, and I just want to take this forward, and I want to pay it forward to the world. So thank you so much for giving us your time tonight. It means the world to me, and I know it means the world to Tish and all of our team here that came on, and I can't wait to share this recording with everybody, because I'm going to make them watch it.
There you go. There you go.
Awesome.
I love it. Well, thank you. This will be recorded. I'll send it out to the team, and to Alfreda and Shannon. Checks are in the mail for your kind words.
I want to reiterate something Rick said. And, he said, and you've heard me say it, get out of your comfort zone. It's a little uncomfortable right now. Good. What a blessing, because that's when we really grow. I love, somebody says, do you like being on the spot? I get up in the morning looking for the spot because I want to be on the spot. I want to feel uncomfortable. And I want you all, I've got one question for all of you, not to answer, but to yourself. All right. Here's the greatest opportunity that we have ever had. We have the best products in the world, and we should be without a doubt, unquestionably, the number one product sellers in the world. We have everything. Here's my question. Would you hire you? Huh? All right. Because you're the leader of your team. Go do it. Make it happen.
Love you, David. Thank you.
All right. Rick, thanks. Tish, thanks.
You're welcome.
Everybody.